Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Izzowned by Dantonio podcast. My name is Mike, and today is the third episode of the podcast. There's not much MSU sports going on this week, but we'll delve into some Big Ten football, and we'll talk about what Izzo said during his press conference and also some Shea Patterson reactions. But let's get going. Some Sparty news here. Women's volleyball lost to Penn State 3-0 in the Elite Eight. That was a good year for the volleyball team. Um, and it ended pretty well. Even with that 3-0 loss in the Elite Eight, Penn State was at home, and they ended up losing that game. Men's basketball Saturday versus Oakland. That is part of the Classic. I forgot the name of it, but Michigan State, Oakland, and Detroit Mercy are there. The four teams. It's going to be played at the Little Caesars Arena, the brand new arena that was just built, and Oakland's one of the best teams in the Horizon Conference. They really are. They're a really good team, and coming off finals this week is finals weeks for MSU. Going off finals, it's going to be a tough game because Oakland is a pretty good team. You cannot sleep on Oakland. You cannot sleep on them this week. The Golden Grizzlies have a good team. Also, other athletics also start Saturday, and like I said, there are no athletics this week because of finals. So let's get going. So Tom Izzo had a lot of things to say about the media after the Southern Utah game, but it really wasn't about the Southern Utah game. It was about the game before against Rutgers, and he benched Nick Ward because he didn't like the body language Nick Ward was showing during the Rutgers game. I think he ended up playing 1 minute in the second half total. And the Lansing media took this thing up and they really exploded into a big story, talking about how Nick Ward might transfer. And they talked about how Izzo can't do that coming later on in the season. And, Izzo is right. He was right to call out the media for that. And, the media need to understand this isn't a pro basketball team. You still have students on your team. You're there to be a teacher as well as a coach. And he basically showed Nick Ward by sitting on the bench, you can't do that. You can't do that, Nick Ward, or else I've got other guys that can play over you if I want. Even though you're one of our best players, we can replace you. You better be showing effort. You better have your body language correct, or else we might go to a different direction during this game. And he showed that, and Nick Ward had a terrific bounce back game against Southern Utah with 17 points. So it was a good game for him. He also made a three, his first three of his career. He is shooting 100% from three in his career, which is pretty good for Nick Ward. But yeah, again, Coach Izzo has the right to call out the media for what they said, and he said if Ward wants to transfer, he can transfer, and of course he isn't transferring because just because you get sit down for a half doesn't mean much. And that game went down to the wire, and he still didn't put Nick Ward in. So it really showed what Tom Izzo was trying to do. He was trying to get Nick Ward to understand that he can't play like that and expect to be on the court. All right, and that really sets the tone for the rest of the team. And Nick Ward really did well in the next game, and he took it like a professional. He really did, and he was able to just sit down and just sit on the bench, not cry about it, come in next game and play well. So, applause to him, and shame on you, media, for calling out Tom Izzo. How dare you call out Tom Izzo? You should never, ever call out Tom Izzo, because if you call out Tom Izzo, he will get you back, and you saw that. You saw Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo was mad during that press conference for a reason, and he had a right to be mad. Okay, so let's move on to Shea Patterson's transfer to Michigan. Ooh, Shea Patterson, this is a gut punch for me. Shea Patterson was looking around to transfer after Ole Miss got a scholarship ban and also a bowl ban for next year, so he will not be at Ole Miss next year. He will be going to Michigan. We are still not sure if Shea Patterson will play in 2018 or he'll sit out for a year. We're not sure yet, but assuming he does play in 2018, that makes Michigan a title contender, not just a Big Ten title contender, but a national championship title contender. And the reason why is Harbaugh, he still wins 10 games a year with no quarterback, really. Wilton Spate, he was like Brock Osweiler out there. He was able to win 10 games last year with him. So imagine if he had a quarterback. And, if he has a quarterback, he can win a lot of games. I'm still not convinced he'll win the big games, but, he can go out there and he can beat the teams that he's supposed to beat maybe next year. But the Big Ten East is really tough, and you're probably going to lose at least one game a year in there. And you saw it this year with Ohio State. They lost to Iowa, even though they're in the West, but they had to go through a gauntlet in the East with Penn State. Penn State was a field goal away from going to the college football playoff. If they just held on to beat Ohio State that day, even if they lost to Michigan State, they still would have went to the playoff because they would have one loss. They have the tiebreaker over Ohio State, and they probably would have beaten Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. They're in the playoff. They're in the playoff, so the Big Ten East is stacked. And with Shea Patterson on Michigan, it's just going to make it a lot tougher for Michigan State to get out of there. And Brian Lewerke's a good quarterback. Is he as good as Shea Patterson? Probably not, which scares me a bit. And pretty much everybody from Michigan is back. Talk about their whole defense is back besides Mo Hurst. Most of the offense is back. So it's going to be they're going to have a really scary team next year. Will Michigan, and we'll see how if Shea Patterson does play in 2018, how good the Big Ten East will be. Yeah, and what if three teams have two losses in the Big Ten East, and the college football playoff leaves them out again? But that's another argument to make. It just blows my mind. Maybe even four teams with two losses. That would be just awful. It really would be. You got to get at least one Big Ten team in a year because the Big Ten is the best conference in college football this year, and the ACC is right behind it, and they almost got two teams in this year. The SEC got two teams in, and they're a mediocre conference that's heavily weighted towards the top, which is awful at the bottom. You saw, and Shea Patterson's going to make a big difference for this team. He really is. He's a good quarterback. Michigan should at least get to 10 wins, and now there's no excuses for Harbaugh. He's got his quarterback. We knew he couldn't develop a quarterback, and now he's got one, so he better be able to go out there and win the national championship now, because if you can't win it now with Shea Patterson, how are you ever going to win the national championship? So expectations are now up through the roof in Ann Arbor, and the expectations are high throughout the Big Ten. A lot of schools are high. You talk about next year Ohio State. Haskins is a really good quarterback. We saw that against Michigan. He'll be their starter. He's going to be a good quarterback. Haskins, you got Shea Patterson if he plays next year. Brian Lewerke, very good quarterback. He's probably the second best quarterback in the Big Ten next year coming back. Penn State, their backup quarterback's coming back this year. Not sure how he's going to be. He didn't really play much. McSorley's probably gone. So, and, look at the other teams. Wisconsin's consistently going to win 10 games a year. And, Iowa's going to win a big game every year. So, the Big Ten is stacked this year. Let's move on. All right, because there isn't much going on for Michigan State sports this week, I decided to do my top 14 Big Ten coaches for 2018. And this is my opinion, so it's probably not fact, but it's my opinion. So, let's get right into it. Number 14 is Lovie Smith, the head coach at Illinois. As you can see, he's 5-19 in his career. All of those games were with the Illinois Fighting Illini. He has a 2-16 in conference record. Both wins came last year in 2016, in which he had a 3-9 record. And my opinion on Lovie Smith is he's not a good college coach at all. And it was a presser move from the University of Illinois, maybe just to get the press to say something about them, because really Lovie Smith for a college coach, it's a terrible hire, and he's just bought himself a couple more years by playing true freshmen at every position instead of winning now, which I don't agree with. You got to at least try to win now. And Lovey Smith, he's just checking out, and he's getting his paycheck for to retire at the University of Illinois. He has not been a good coach at all. He's never done anything really. I mean, 2 wins last year. He did beat Michigan State last year when they were 3-9, but that Michigan State team was terrible. So, Lovey Smith, I thought he'd be on the hot seat this year, but he bought himself another year by playing all freshmen. Next year, he better get to a bowl game, or else he might be fired because Illinois, I'm not sure what their patience is with Lovey Smith, but Lovey Smith hasn't shown that he can coach in college for 2 years. So, we're not sure what I'm going to see from Lovey Smith going on. Now, number 13 is Tom Allen, and Tom Allen. I'm not sure about him yet. Really, it's really too early to call about Tom Allen. Well, this year he had a disappointing year at Indiana. Indiana had high expectations this year. They had expectations, maybe even challenging for a Big Ten championship. They have an offense that was pretty good this year. Their defense was lackluster. Um, they really did struggle this year in conference play, and losses against Maryland and Purdue at the end of the season just destroyed their chances at going to a bowl game. And I thought the floor this team had was making a bowl game, and they couldn't even do that. So, where is this team going to go? I mean, Tom Allen, maybe he's a great coach. Maybe he's another Pat Fitzgerald, but we're not sure. He's a defensive coach. He gets emotional on the sideline, but right now, from the stuff we've seen, Tom Allen, it's just not the coach. He's not a great coach, and he's another one of these coordinators going straight to head coach that we're just not sure of. It worked out with Pat Fitzgerald, but we're not sure if it's going to work out with Tom Allen in Indiana. And I think he's the worst coach in the state of Indiana. I'll talk about Jeff Brom later, but Purdue has got a better head coach than Indiana right now, in my opinion. Number 12 is Chris Ash at Rutgers. Chris Ash, he's been at Rutgers. This is his only job as a head coach. He has a 3-15 Big Ten record. Chris Ash does, and last year Rutgers was one of the worst teams in the country, let alone the Power Five. They might have went winless in the American Conference, to be honest with you. And Chris Ash, what he did this year was remarkable. The way he was able to win 3 Big Ten games is just amazing. It really is. The job he did at Rutgers, it's amazing. He's trying to build this thing. The expectations aren't 10 wins a year in Piscataway. Maybe 7 or 8 wins a year would work for them, and that's what Greg Schiano gave you 10 years ago. And Chris Ash is going to try to give you that every year. And really, when you think about it for Rutgers, there's always 4 losses on the schedule. You know you're going to lose to Michigan. You know you're going to lose to MSU. You know you're going to lose to Ohio State and Penn State every year. So the highest you can really get is 8-4. Maybe if you get an upset, 9-3. And right now, to be able to go from the worst team in the FBS to a 5-7 record, it's remarkable. It really it's remarkable. Or 4-8 record, but it's remarkable. And this team, what they were able to do, good win over Maryland, good win over Illinois, and this team really, they have some future parts. And unlike Lovie Smith, I really do think that Chris Ash has this in the right direction, but I can't put him higher because the Big Ten is just loaded with coaches. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, DJ Durkin is the head coach at Maryland. He's got an 11-15 record at the University of Maryland, and he's 1-1 in bowl games. He coached Florida in the Birmingham Bowl a couple of years ago. That's where that one win came from. He lost last year in a bowl. I can't remember what the bowl was, but as you can see, 11-15, 2 years at Maryland. Last year, a 6-6 record was a pretty good regular season for Maryland. They got some good wins there last year. This year, a little disappointing, but on the first week of the year, they went to Texas and beat Texas in Austin, which I thought maybe this team had a chance to win 8 or 9 games, and the injuries just started piling up. The injuries at the quarterback position. They had to go to a third string quarterback, and really it just ended their season. Injuries ended their season. He had some good wins this year against a good win against Minnesota this year for Durkin. So, when you look at things for DJ Durkin, it's just been bad luck this year. Last year he had a good season at Maryland his first year. It's been bad luck for Durkin, and I think he's got this Maryland program in the right direction. I can't put him higher because the record hasn't really reflected much on him. What do they say? You are what your record is, and I don't believe that's necessarily true the whole time, but especially in college football. But again, when you look at what he's done, the first 2 years, it's been pretty impressive. But expectations are going to start to go up next year, and he better have a good year next year with the guys he has. He's got some good guys coming in. So DJ Durkin, number 11. Number 10, Kirk Ferentz. Now, I was debating whether to put Kirk Ferentz 7, 8, 9, and 10, and I decided to put him at 10 just because he just consistently wins you 7 games a year, and it's consistent. He doesn't really do much other than that, and he'll once in a while he'll win you 10 games a year, once in a while, but he just hasn't been the coaches that could be. He could be a lot better than this, and the coaches in front of him have a higher ceiling, I believe, than Kirk Ferentz does, and Kirk Ferentz has been a big game coach his entire career as at Iowa at all 19 years. He's won some really big games, including this year against Ohio State and last year against Michigan. He's won some big games and almost upset against Penn State this year as well. So Kirk Ferentz he's a good coach, and the fact that Kirk Ferentz is number 10 in my opinion just proves how good the Big Ten is. He might be number 5 in the SEC when you look at the coaches the SEC has, but Kirk Ferentz is number 10. You just look at the ceiling Kirk Ferentz has. It's not the highest. He does have 2 Big Ten championship shares in 2002 and 2004, but the 10-win seasons aren't there. He only has 4 in 19 years, and they have struggled in bowl games the past couple of years. He's 6 and 8 in his career, which is not that bad in bowl games. He does have 14 winning seasons, but he does consistently give you 7 wins a year. And in the Big Ten West, is that good enough? For Iowa, maybe, but for other programs, maybe not. But Kirk Ferentz, he's a consistent coach. He'll give you 7 wins a year. If you're looking for that, then you're good. And he does have 2 Big Ten championship shares, but they were 13 and 15 years ago. You're just not sure what Kirk Ferentz is going to bring you later on. So let's go to number 9, Jeff Brom. Jeff Brom, career record 36 and 16. He has 3 winning seasons. All 3 were at Western Kentucky, and he went 6 and 6 at Purdue this year. What a job he did this year at Purdue. He is a really good head coach. He really is. The job he did at Purdue was pretty remarkable. Bring it from just a terrible team last year to 6 wins and a bowl appearance, including a big win over your rival Indiana in a elimination game for a bowl. That was a pretty good job by Brom. What he was able to do there, kept it close with Wisconsin, went to Iowa and beat Iowa, and we know how hard it is to win in Iowa City. So, I really do think his ceiling is really high. You saw the record at Western Kentucky. He came in after Willie Taggart went out. Willie Taggart never won more than 7 games at Western Kentucky, and he got them 2 10-win seasons and 3 winning seasons at Western Kentucky. And he was one of the best coaches coming out last year to get a big-time job, and Purdue really hit a home run with this one. Jeff Brom has a chance to be a really good coach in the West, and how weak the West is, he could come out here and maybe even get 8, 9 wins next year with the team he has coming back, and he's a good coach. But he's still number 9, which shows how good the Big Ten is. I have Jeff Brom, number 9. Number 8, I have PJ Fleck. So PJ Fleck took a 1-11 Western Michigan team and took them to 13-1 just 3 years later, which just shows the kind of man that PJ Fleck is and the kind of coach he is. As you can see, he's 35 and 29. He has won 10-win season with Western Michigan, and he went 5-7 with Minnesota this year, and it was a little disappointing. The end of the season Minnesota had. They started the season 4-0, including wins over Oregon State and Maryland. So those are pretty big. But or no, he did not beat Maryland. Excuse me, he lost to Maryland. But PJ Fleck, he did this at Western Michigan. He went 1-11 his first year, and he rebuilds teams. He's not the type of coach that's going to come in here and just start winning. He's not Urban Meyer. He's not going to take you from 6-6 to 11-1. And remember, the Minnesota team from last year that won the Holiday Bowl last year lost a lot of bodies, and he had to come in here and just recruit. And remember, he got the number one Australian recruit. He's a big offensive lineman. Chose Minnesota over Alabama, so that's a good recruiting win for him. Listen, I really do think PJ Fleck could be competing for some Big Ten championships down the road. Maybe not next year, maybe not even the year after that. But he could consistently be a 10-game winner each year. And when I saw Minnesota sign this guy, I thought it was a home run. What he did at Western Michigan, albeit it wasn't the MAC, but they were 1-11 in the MAC. So it just shows what he did to rebuild the program. He can be a really good coach going in the future. So number 7 is Scott Frost. So Scott Frost has is 0-0 record at Nebraska. It'll be his first year at the University of Nebraska. He went 18-7 in his 2 years at UCF, including one 10-win season that was this year, and he will not be coaching in any bowl games, so he has a 0-0 bowl record. He went 6-7 last year at UCF, and he went 11-1 this year. 11-0 this year at UCF. As you can see, 18-7 record. Scott Frost, I really do think he has a chance to be a special coach. 10 wins a year for Nebraska. Can he win them a national championship? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he can come in here and win a national championship. And I'm not sure if he can turn around this program as quickly as he did UCF. And the reason why, Mike Riley pro-style offense to an Oregon-style tempo offense, NASCAR offense that he runs at UCF, I'm just not sure how quickly he's going to be able to change, to get people in there. So, I'm not going to be expecting much next year. The expectations are not going to be as high. Maybe 6 wins at the highest next year for them. But in the future, he has a real chance to be really, really good. He really does as a head coach at Nebraska. What a hire Nebraska just made. And he's going to really help them later on down the line. He's a really good head coach. And Nebraska, but he's still only number 7 because, the body of work isn't there at Nebraska. We'll see what he can do later on. He's number 7. Number 6 is Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's easily the most underrated coach in college football. What he's been able to do at Northwestern is just unbelievable. Northwestern was the laughingstock of the Big Ten for 50 years. They really were. And he played there in the early 2000s, and he came here, and he was able to be the coach, and he's been the coach here for 12 years. And he's similar to Tom Allen. He was a coordinator, and he came and became the head coach at Northwestern. As you can see, he's 86-65 at Northwestern with 2 10-win seasons. He's 2-5 in bowls, and he's 48-50 in Big Ten play. Now, many people would say, "Oh, those are mediocre numbers." Not at Northwestern. Northwestern is an incredibly tough place to win, and it starts with it's just so hard to get into Northwestern. It's the Stanford of the Midwest. It really is. And you have to be pretty dang smart to get in there. So the way he's been recruiting there, and it's also not a flashy place. It's not Stanford. No, it's not beautiful. It's Evanston, Illinois. It's Chicago. It's kind of cold during the winter. Who would want to go there? And what he's been able to do past couple of years. He had a 10-win season a couple of years ago. He has another chance for a 10-win season in the Music City Bowl this year. I have mad respect for this coach, for Pat Fitzgerald. And he would be higher on this list if it wasn't for the great names in front of him. But as you can see, he is a really good coach. And he has a chance to get another 10-win season, get three on his resume in 12 years, which at Northwestern would be pretty remarkable. So, next. Number 5 is Jim Harbaugh, and many people will be like, whoa, Jim Harbaugh, he should be number 1 on this list or number 2. Why is he doing number 5? Well, he's at number 5 for a couple of reasons. Number 1, he hasn't been able to win the big game at all. And really, when you look at his resume at the University of Michigan, he has one win over a Big Ten team, and that was against Wisconsin. That was against Wisconsin 2 years ago, and that Wisconsin team had a redshirt freshman quarterback, and they still only won 14-7 in that game. And you look at the other top 10 teams he's played. He had a chance against Michigan State in 2015, and instead he put a gunner on the outside, letting a free rusher come in, letting the punter get frazzled. He dropped the ball right to Jalen Watts Jackson, who took it in for the score, as we know. But he still has 5 10-win seasons. 2 were at FCS San Diego. He's 2-2 in bowls. Could be a bit better there. Yeah, he has 8 winning seasons. All 3 seasons he sat at the University of Michigan have been winning seasons. This year, I would say it was a disappointment for the expectations that people have in Ann Arbor. He is 28-10 there with Brady Hoke's recruits, and Brady Hoke recruited decently well, so he had a good starting plan. He just hasn't been able to develop a quarterback, but with Shea Patterson coming, there's no excuses for him the next couple of years. He's got to win at least a Big Ten championship, and as you can see, he has 0 in 3 years. Last year's team was probably one of the best teams in the last 20 years Michigan's had, and they couldn't even get to the Big Ten championship with an upset loss against Iowa. And they lost in the Orange Bowl to Florida State, which was another top 10 opponent. So Jim Harbaugh, because he can't win the big game, he beats down on bad opponents, but Minnesota, he'll beat them 35-13, whatever. But when it comes to the big games, Wisconsin this year, Ohio State this year, Penn State this year, his teams really, they were in it for maybe a half, and then the second half, the teams pulled away. And really Harbaugh, he needs to start winning these games, or else, maybe that contract he has there might be up soon, and he might be going somewhere else, which I disagree with. He's been a pretty dang good coach. I don't know why you would want to get rid of him. He's still a top 5 coach in the Big Ten, but he is getting paid $9 million, and when you get paid $9 million to win 8 games, it's not good. It's not good. The expectations for $9 million are Nick Saban, are Urban Meyer, and when you don't do that, then people are going to start getting mad. So there you go. Jim Harbaugh at number 5. Number 4 is Paul Chryst at Wisconsin. Paul Chryst has a 52-26 record. He's been at Wisconsin for 3 years, and he has a 33-7 record, which is 5 wins better than Jim Harbaugh, and he's been there for the same amount of time as Jim Harbaugh. And maybe Paul Chryst is not the coach Jim Harbaugh is, but the fit. He is a perfect fit for Madison, Wisconsin. The way he coaches, he coaches the right way. He coaches pro-style offense. If you remember, Gary Anderson, the coach before that, ran a spread offense at Utah State, and he didn't like that Barry Alvarez wanted him to run a pro-style. So Alvarez said, "See you later," and he went to Oregon State, and 2 years later, he's gone. So, maybe that's a story for another day. But Paul Chryst, 22-4 in Big Ten play. He's been remarkable. He really has been. 22-4. The last 3 years, he's had 3 10-win seasons, and he's had 4 winning seasons. In 3 years at Pitt, he did struggle. He didn't win over 7 games in those 3 years, but it is hard to win in Pittsburgh. And really, these 2 years, all right, he doesn't have a quarterback. Alex Hornibrook is not the answer at quarterback, even for Wisconsin. He's not the answer. And the fact that Alex Hornibrook is winning these games and really getting Jonathan Taylor out of nowhere, a 3-star recruit out of New Jersey, and to see what he did this year, it's remarkable. It really is. He's been to two Big Ten championships. He's lost both of them. He had a chance in both of them to win the game late, but on fourth downs he was stopped twice. And there's definitely some expectations to win a Big Ten championship coming up for him pretty soon, or else the pressure might be on him. But if you get 10 wins a year in Madison, people will be happy. Just go to the Citrus Bowl or the Orange Bowl or the Outback Bowl every year and win it. Get 11, 10 wins a year. Your people are going to be happy. And I do suspect the competition in the Big Ten West is going to get a lot harder with Brom, Frost, and Fleck at the helm over there. So it's going to be tougher for Wisconsin to win games in the next couple of years with all these great coaches coming back. So it's number 4. Number 3 is I put James Franklin for Penn State. And, Franklin, he won at Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt is the Harvard of the South. It is so hard to win at Vanderbilt, and he went 9-4 there twice. And he took a big 10-year contract with Penn State, and you saw what he's done at Penn State so far. First couple of years were uneventful, and the last 2 have been 10-win seasons for him. What he inherited, really remarkable from those Jerry Sandusky days to the Bill O'Brien 1-year stint there. He had nobody. He really had nobody coming. He had to build this thing from scratch. And what he's done is been really, really amazing. And he's won the big games. He really has. This year he may not have won the big games this year, but maybe if it wasn't for that weather delay, maybe they would have won that game. Maybe. And they had Ohio State on the ropes early, and they lost that game. If they won that game, they would have been in the playoff this year. Penn State had one of the best teams in school history this year, and they weren't able to win. But you look at he has a Big Ten championship, and he should have a playoff appearance, but he doesn't. But again, a story for another day. He has 6 winning seasons. 6 winning seasons at Vanderbilt and Penn State is pretty good. He's 3-2 in bowls. He just barely lost the Rose Bowl last year from a heroic effort from USC last year. Again, he's a really good coach. The Big Ten is not lacking in coaches, and the fact that he could be number 1 in some conferences, and he's only at number 3 here it's remarkable. He's a pretty dang good coach. Number 2 is Mark Dantonio. He's been coaching at Michigan State for 11 years. He's 99-45 there with a 60-30 Big Ten record. Oh, Mr. Consistency, Mr. 10 wins is what I like to call him. Every other year you get you 10 wins. And Michigan State had one of the best runs in school history just a couple of years ago from 2013 to 2015 where they won 10 wins where they got 10 wins a year. And if you remember 2014, the year they didn't win the Big Ten championship, they lost to Ohio State and Oregon, which both went to the playoff and actually played in the national championship. So there's no shame in 2014 either. 2015 was a great year, as we know. Probably Dantonio's best job was 2013. He had the number 1 defense in the land. And Mark Dantonio, he's just been sleeping in the state of Michigan for so many years. He has 5 10-win seasons, 3 Big Ten championships. That's the most of any coach in the Big Ten that is coaching right now. You look at his 11 winning seasons, all right? His 10 winning seasons, 11 years in the MSU. He coached at Cincinnati before he went to MSU, but again, the job he's done there, he's a perfect fit. And maybe Paul Chryst is a perfect fit at Wisconsin. Mark Dantonio is a perfect fit at Michigan State. Nick Saban never had the success Mark Dantonio did. He went to the playoff, and they had a chance to win to win the game early against Alabama if Connor Cook didn't throw that interception. But it happened, and they got blown out in that game. But the fact they got there was remarkable. Sometimes I get mad at his stubbornness to change sometimes. He's been running that same pro style offense for a long time. Maybe he could change it up a bit, but really no complaints here. And the reason why he's also number 2 is his ability to win the big game is really unmatched by any coach I've seen really throughout the whole country. His ability to win the big game, it's remarkable. It really is. He beats Michigan every year. Ohio State. Nobody can beat Ohio State in the Big Ten besides this guy, and he's what is he 2-3 against them, 2-4, including a Big Ten championship win in 2013. In 2015, 14-point underdogs going into the horseshoe, and Michael Geiger with one of the biggest field goals in the history of MSU. It was a big win for it. That was a big win for the program. The fact that what he's been able to do is amazing. And last year, 3-9, was it was a down year for him. We all know that it's unexcusable. But again, they did lose the greatest senior class in school history, and that really hurt them. They started a lot of young guys, and then off the field issues we saw earlier this year. But boy, what a bounce back year he had this year with two big wins over two top 10 opponents, Michigan and Penn State. That in both times, maybe you could have blamed it on the weather, but Michigan State, they seem to find ways to play in weather, and beat teams in weather. So you can't say that that's a negative for them. But Mark Dantonio, man, he's a really good coach. Definitely a top 10 coach in the country, I would say. And maybe I'm being a little biased about this, but again, I put him number 2 in the Big Ten. Just his ability to win the big game and his ability to consistently get you 10 wins a year. Besides that 3-9 year, he's going to get you 10 wins a year usually. So, and he also gets you really good quarterbacks. You see Kirk Cousins in the NFL, and Le'Veon Bell. You see all these good players are in the NFL, and they come in 3-star recruits, and he gets them to the NFL. No, his ability to develop players is also underrated. He's just underrated as a whole. And number 1 is Urban Meyer. Really no explanation here. He's 47-3 in Big Ten play. 47-3 in Big Ten play. It's unbelievable. It's stupid good. It's stupid good. It's not Nick Saban good, but it's stupid good. He's 176-31. He's been at Ohio State for 6 years. He's been coaching for 16 years. He has 16 winning seasons. Record at Ohio State 72-8. He has a national championship on his resume. He has 11 10-win seasons, and wherever he goes, he wins. He won at Utah, he won at Florida, and he's winning again at Ohio State. Really nothing to say here, really. His ability, he wins the big games too. You saw it, national championship, semifinal, and the final. He was able to win those games. This year against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. That should have been a college football playoff playing game. It wasn't, but they won that game, and they were the better team that day too. So Ohio State, as long as he's at Ohio State, he's going to win 10 wins. He's going to win 10 games a year, probably 11 games a year. He's going to get you to the Big Ten championship game usually, even though it's getting tougher to get there every year. And he's probably going to get you into the playoff too. He probably will. The run he's had as a coach, it's unmatched by any coach in the nation besides Nick Saban, really. And that's really all you have to say about Urban Meyer. All right, that is going to be it for episode 3 of the Izzowned by Dantonio podcast. Everybody, thank you for watching. And tune in Saturday as I recap the Michigan State Oakland game. You can see that coming up next Saturday. So thank you everybody for watching.